survive.
You must help him.
Strength among us! I don't fight for power. I fight the free road for men like them.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2024 historical epic Gladiator 2. The film is directed by Ridley Scott and it stars Paul Mescal, Pedro Pascal, Connie Nielsen, Denzel Washington, Joseph Quinn, Matt Lucas and Derek Jacobi. Right, okay. This is the continuing story of Gladiator. This time round, Paul Mescal plays Lucius, who essentially we saw in the original Gladiator. He is the young son of Connie Nielsen's character, Lucilla, who also turns out to be the son of Maximus, the Russell Crowe character from the first film. However, he has no idea because he is sent away as a child after the events in the first film. So he is raised on not knowing who he is in a rival land that at this point in time is being invaded by the Romans. He is a skilled warrior by this time. He fights for the survival of his land. They lose, and he is taken to Rome as a slave. He soon, like his father, makes his way into the gladiatorial arena where the events unfold, where he will finally reach his destiny. Right, what are my thoughts on Gladiator 2? Excuse me. Well, who thought we would finally get here, that we would actually get a sequel to Gladiator? There are many, including myself, that thought that the original was just such a classic, and it is such a classic that it's probably best to leave it alone. But they've been working on a new Gladiator film for many, many years, and never really been able to kind of put anything together. So I was a little bit unsure what to make of this film before going into it. You know, I didn't know a great deal about it. I think I'd only seen one trailer. I hadn't really read any spoilers or anything like that. I didn't, in actual fact, know going into it that Paul Mescal's character was Lucius, the son of Maximus. I just knew that Connie Nielsen was returning and Derek Jacobi, and I think they're the only returning characters from the first film. But I have to say I was pleasantly surprised by this. Do I think it's on the same level as the first one? No, I don't. But it's certainly a worthy sequel, and it is certainly very brilliantly made, as you would expect, by Ridley Scott, one of the greatest directors who's ever lived, quite simply. Now, the first thing, if you like, I want to talk about is Paul Mescal, who plays Lucius. He is no Russell Crowe, unsurprisingly. While I don't dislike his character, it lacked personality in a lot of ways. Physically, the physical performance by him is fantastic. I really bought it. I didn't buy into the rest of his character or the portrayal of the character, certainly as much as I did in Russell Crowe's in the first one. Pedro Pascal, I expected. Actually, I mean, because he's in so much these days, you know, it's almost like tiresome now seeing him in movies because he's in pretty much everything. But he's actually really good in this. He plays like almost like the new Maximus in this, in the sense that he's a general. He's massively respected by his men, it takes a different turn, if you like, his character, and he's actually the husband of Connie Nielsen's character in this film, Lucilla. Can I just say, Connie Nielsen, my God, she was stunning in this film. I actually wasn't sure when I was watching it. I'm thinking, have they touched her up with CGI? Because she just looked so fabulous. I don't know whether they did or they didn't. Either way, I thought she looked incredible for her age, whatever age she is. And I haven't looked at whatever age she is, but I suspect she'll be in her late 50s, maybe. She looks stunning. Denzel Washington plays like the Oliver Reed character in the first film, the guy that owns the slaves who turns into gladiators. But it's actually a much bigger part than I thought it was going to be, the Denzel Washington part. In many ways, he is the chief villain of the film. Then you've got like the twin emperors, one of them played by Joseph Quinn from Stranger Things fame. And, they're almost Joaquin Phoenix level of shitness in regards to their behaviour. Not just, but, they're not a million miles off, so they definitely give you some characters to dislike here in this film. And I think one area that I think this film does improve on in the first one is actually the gladiator scenes. Now, in the first one, when you actually analyse it, you get a gladiator scene where they're kind of in the countryside and he does his first, thing, Russell Crowe. And then there's a couple in like the gladiatorial arena, and then the main fight at the end with Joaquin Phoenix. This one, there's loads, it feels like, of gladiator fights in this one. It really goes to town, and each one is a bigger spectacle than the last. I mean, some really, really spectacular battles that are going on in these gladiatorial arenas, and I thought that was easily the strongest part of the film. Plot-wise, it actually follows a very similar pattern to the first one. The plan in the first one was, to free Rome, basically, and the Russell Crowe character Maximus was going to lead the armies into Rome to get rid of the corruption and oppression, free Rome, and then he was going to hand it over back to whomever. And that is essentially still the plan here in many, many ways. Well, it is. And then what they've got to go with here is the fact that Lucius is the son of Maximus, so that they think that will be enough to kind of get the armies to kind of do what they want them to do. So it's a very, very similar storyline to the first one in a lot of ways. So it did surprise me, this one, a little bit, because it was better than I expected it to be. I mean, spectacular to look at, beautifully shot, epic in many, many ways, great gladiatorial scenes. The CGI was absolutely top notch. Apart from I think the baboons. There's a gladiatorial fight where the slaves go up against a load of, absolutely savage baboons. It should be said. And I thought the baboon CGI looked a bit shit, if I'm being honest. But that's me being overcritical, I suppose. Beyond that, I couldn't really fault any of the CGI on display here. I do recommend this one. If I was to compare it to the first one, it would probably pale in comparison. I would probably, if I was, and I haven't reviewed the first one, I may actually give it a review, but I suspect it would be almost flawless if I rewatched that. I haven't seen that for a number of years, but I remember I went to the cinema a number of times to watch that when it came out. I enjoyed it so much. So a part of me was worried about watching this because I thought it might, harm the legacy of the first one. It doesn't really. It's quite respectful to it. I'm glad it was Ridley Scott that got to do it because he got to kind of continue what he was doing in the first. Definitely worth a watch if you're a fan of these kind of epic historical films. It delivers on all areas, top-notch performances, epic battle scenes, and some pretty brilliant stuff on display. So yeah, I was impressed with this one. So check it out if you get the opportunity, and I will of course be back with plenty more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.